Good afternoon. Regular meeting number 51 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. President Pro Tem Tyson, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Monsignor Cody.
Let us pray. Eternal and merciful God, in these days of stress and trial, the members of Columbus City Council and all of us turn to you, asking for your grace and wisdom as we address the serious issues that confront our city, our state, and our nation. We pray that you'll inspire us all to work together and abandon stubborn resistance so that the common good can be achieved through mutual cooperation. We rely on your mercy and good spirit to assist us in the service of our fellow human beings, many of whom suffer greatly because of war, violence, exploitation, natural disasters, and poverty. We look to you, God, for the grace we need to do better, and we pray for one another to have the courage and self-sacrificing generosity we need to work together with mutual respect and reverence for one another, for we are your children. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Monsignor. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Just a reminder of tonight's council, some rules of council, that any person who takes any action to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. And any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city ordinance or for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's Office are listed on the agenda. They'll be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
How about resolutions for members of council? Councilmember Elizabeth Brown.
Thank you, President Klein. I do have a resolution tonight. If Ms. Elfie DeBella and Chastity Kutris would please approach the microphone. Tonight, I am presenting Resolution 0277X-2017 to recognize and thank Elfie DeBella for her leadership and public service during her tenure as the President and CEO of the YWCA Columbus. As we all know, the YWCA is a critical component of local efforts to meet the needs of women and families in Central Ohio, from homeless women struggling with mental illness and addictions to professional women striving to be the next generation of leaders in our community. As president and CEO of the organization since 2010, Elfie DeBella amplified that work through comprehensive fundraising campaigns, successfully securing state capital funding, developing the YWCA Family Center, an emergency shelter for homeless families, into a national model of success. As Elfie's tenure at the YWCA Columbus comes to an end, We owe her a debt of gratitude for the transformation that not only of the organization itself, but the transformation you really made in women's lives every day at the organization. The board that supports Elfie is an excellent board of community leaders and women who just deeply care about the success of families in our community. I first met Elfie and Chastity when Chastity was board chair and Elfie was leading the YWCA. And I've been inspired by the leadership of both of these women since that time. So I'm deeply grateful that you're here at council. I also appreciate the time that I've had to help the Y in volunteer capacities in all sorts of ways, whether serving food or attending events or briefly serving on the board. It is a dear organization to my family. My grandmother helped start, was active in her Mansfield Y and helped start the statewide association of YWCAs many decades ago, and I am just so proud to be in a community that has such a strong YWCA. Before I move for adoption and then turn the microphone over to Elfie and Chastity, do any of my colleagues have any comments? Councilmember Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilman Brown and Elfie. I just want to say really thank you for your service to women in our community. I appreciate the work that you have done at the YWCA Family Center. I just appreciate the work at the Griswold building, running that capital campaign that now is home to many single women in our community that were homeless, and now they have a permanent home at the Y. I also just appreciate the opportunity that we had to partner together to identify additional funds. We thought this was something thinking outside the box, that realizing that women and or families that were coming to your facilities, to prevent them from being involved in homelessness, that came up with a creative program to give them financial training, but also some funds that would prevent them from being homeless. But oftentimes it is a situation where, if your car breaks down or your utility bill gets a little bit too high, they just need a little bit of money to make it. And that prevented women from being homeless. And I know that's something that my colleagues are all working on. Councilmember Page is certainly focusing on preventing evictions and homelessness. But again, just you thinking outside the box. You have been a woman of achievement from being when you worked at Huntington, and to take the step to move from the for-profit world to the nonprofit world, to continue to make a difference in our community. And I thank you for leaving Huntington and coming to the YWCA. And just thank you for making this community a better place for women. Congratulations to you as you move to the next phase of your life. I wish you just blessings because you have a lot more to do, and I know that you will take all this previous experience and continue to make our community a better place. Thank you very much for your service.
Councilmember Harden.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. I just want to echo President Pro Tem Tyson, Elfie, in saying thank you for your service. In particular, your leadership over the last several years really has been marked in physical assets in terms of the campaign to rebuild Griswold, but also in this time where we need to have tough conversations around racial justice. The YWCA has stepped up and has not shied away from those conversations. And so I thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being convener. And like President Pro Tem Tyson, I certainly support and I'm excited about your next steps in our city. Your leadership is greatly valued here in Columbus. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I move for adoption, I do want to just say, because I didn't put a number on this in my comments before, during Elfie's time at the YWCA, the Family Center, which is really at the middle of a lot of the important transformational work that the Y does, served 8,879 families during that time. And that's just an incredible number of people that the organization touched. and we know the quality of service that they received. So thank you. With that, I'll move for adoption.
Second.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
And the microphone is yours.
Well, thank you so much, President Klein, President Pro Tem Tyson, Councilmember Brown, members of City Council. It is truly an honor and a humbling experience to be recognized here this evening. I'm very pleased to be joined this evening by my family as well as by Chastity Kutras, a past YWCA board chair, and her family. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve as the YWCA's president and CEO over the past 7.5 years. And I'm so proud, I'm very proud of everything that we, the board, the team, community partners, and all of you have accomplished during that time. It is because of your steadfast support that YWCA Columbus has and will continue to make a profound and transformative difference in the lives of Central Ohio women and their families. And I thank you for that. While it is always very hard to leave a great organization like the YWCA, I'm very excited about the next chapter in my life and looking for new opportunities that will help me to continue to serve our wonderful and great community. Thank you again for this very special honor.
Thank you, President Klein. I would like to invite up Dan Sharp and members of the Create Columbus Commission. Tonight I have Resolution 0275X-2017, which recognizes the leadership of Columbus young professional Dan Sharp as the recipient of the Create Columbus Commission Visionary Award. And as we know that this is a quarterly event where we bring down and recognize exemplary young professionals. Mr. Dan Sharp has been a pivotal figure in activating Columbus young professional community to give both time and dollars for the betterment of our city. Dan, I believe you exemplify community service through your work at the foundation, but really just your commitment to making this city better, both in your profession, but also, and probably more so, in your personal time, and for that we are grateful. Before we move for adoption, would any of my Councilmember Stenziano.
Thank you, Councilmember Harden. As you mentioned, we go to a lot of places, and oftentimes we'll see Dan there. And Dan does a great job representing not only the spirit of the Columbus Foundation, but of our city. And so congratulations on this recognition. But keep it up, and we'll look forward to seeing it at the many, many more events that are upcoming.
With that, actually, I'll turn it over for Create Columbus Commission to, as I said earlier, clean up my comments.
Good evening, Council President Klein, council members. My name is Anna Sanyal, and on behalf of the Create Columbus Commission, I'm excited to be here and present this award to Dan Sharp. Before we do that, just a quick thank you to the city for hosting us for the Create Columbus YP Government Day. Thank you for always supporting us, and we hope to continue this relationship in the future. I'd just like to mention a few things before I turn it over to Dan so that he can accept the award. I'm sure all of you are aware Dan Sharp was named the Vice President for Community Research and Grants Management by the Columbus Foundation earlier this year, and this was a very welcome promotion. He has been with the foundation for about 11 years, and as both Councilmember Stenziano and Harden mentioned, he's been an active member for strategic grant making. Quick facts about the Columbus Foundation: it's the 7th largest community foundation in the world, which I did not know before today, and it has $1.7 billion in assets and awards more than $1.86 billion to a wide range of philanthropic interests. So we feel really lucky in Central Ohio to have the Columbus Foundation here in our midst to help us with grant making efforts, and also to have such a YP leader like Dan to be at the helm of this new position. We are confident that Dan will continue to encourage and champion champion young professionals to give back to their community in his new role. Also, this is a very proud moment for the Create Columbus Commission because Dan is a past co-chair, so it's kind of a full circle for us. So without much further ado, Dan.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Council President Klein, Council President Pro Tem Tyson, Councilmember Hardin, members of council, thank you very much. I really am here to extend my gratitude, not just for this award from the Create Columbus Commission, but for you all and this city for creating and fostering such an environment for young professionals to thrive and foster and call Columbus home. It's very important, certainly, to the present time in our community, but most certainly to the future of our community. And so I'm very pleased to be joined by so many of the current Create Columbus Commission commissioners, because they are truly, really the visionaries that are in the work through their roles, representing such a diverse array of our community of young professionals, and they really bring the best of themselves to this work. But thank you again very much for allowing all of us to really be committed to this community that we love to call home. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And with that, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Councilmember Brown is asking, and it's funny because I just assume everybody knows, but it would be cool really quick to acknowledge who all the members here from the Create Columbus Commission are and your professions.
Thank you, President Klein, council members. My name is Kyle Strickland. I'm an attorney at the Kerwin Institute for the Study of Race and Ethnicity, and I've been on the Create Columbus Commission for 1 year.
Jordan Davis. I've been fortunate to be the chair of the Create Columbus Commission for 3 years, and I am a part of Smart Columbus.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Chanel Jones. I'm a professor of criminology and criminal justice at Ohio Dominican University.
Hello, my name is Nicole Plant, and I work for Safe Light Auto Glass and Marketing.
Anna Sanyal, I'm an attorney at the Public Utilities Commission.
Hi, Alex Fromeyer, the founder and CEO of Beam Dental. Been on the commission for about 2 years.
Hi, I'm Eileen Samboy Sanchez. I've been in the commission for 2 years, and I am a co-founder of a nonprofit called Femergy that works with girls and women in the community.
Hello, thanks for having us. My name is Jay Klaus. I'm an entrepreneur who supports other entrepreneurs.
Hi, my name is Timothy Wolfstar with Atlas Community Partners, and I help the Create Columbus Commission with the Pulse projects.
Thank you, President Klein. And as our current young professionals are leaving, I would like to ask some of our future young professionals to come up to the podium. So this evening we have a few special guests, and this is the current class of city leaders, and they are led by their program director, Ms. Sherry Lynn Wynn. And City Leaders is sponsored by the Recreation and Parks Department, and it was established to develop the city leaders of tomorrow by providing an orientation of our city through hands-on learning opportunities, meetings, and mentoring by current city leadership. The goal of this program is to render a diverse group of forward-thinking young people eager to learn all about Columbus. So I welcome you all to council chambers. Ms. Sherry, if you could just kind of start, and then each of our young people will introduce themselves and if they are here with their parent or their guardian as well.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, President Klein, Councilmember Page, and members of council. It's great to be back in these chambers. I'm glad to be representing the City Leaders Academy. It's a group of 6th through 8th graders. All of these young people have a 3.0 or above grade point average. They're City of Columbus residents. They get into the program by, of course, applying, by having the grade point average, by also writing an essay on 2 of the pillars of character, and also a personal interview. And it's an amazing group of 15 young people with us. We take journeys all throughout the city to learn about the city, to meet all the leadership within the city of Columbus, so that we can in turn give these young people a great experience and exposure to become future leaders. So We're excited to have them here. There's a total of 15. Not all could make it because of other social commitments with their schools, et cetera. But we do have representative of, let's see, we have 4 city leaders with us today and 1 future city leader that is with us. So I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves. And I want to introduce our staff, which is Caitlin Welke and also Michelle Upshaw. They work with our City Leaders program specifically, also with our Capital Kids After School program. So glad to have them with us.
Hello, my name is Alexis Cunningham. I am 11 years old and I am in the 7th grade and I attend Columbus Academy. Today I've brought with me my dad, Buster Cunningham.
Hi, I am Wasim Hamaza. I'm 11 years old, in 6th grade, and go to Ridgeview Middle School. And today I brought my mom, Samira Akram.
Hi, my name's Stephen Ma. I'm 12 years old, I'm in 7th grade, and I go to Phoenix Middle School, and today I brought my mom.
Hi, I'm Christina Ma. I am in 5th grade, and I go to Worthington Hills Elementary, and today I brought my mom.
Hi, I am Samuel. I am 12 years old. I go to Columbus North International.
Well, thank you all so much. And again, welcome to Council Chambers. It was a pleasure to speak with you all a little bit before our meeting and just continue doing the good work that you're doing. So keep your grades up and any other activities and just give everything 100%.
And we have some goodies for all members of council.
Oh, thank you. Are there any additional comments from my colleagues? Well, thank you. And again, welcome.
Thank you, President Klein. Tonight, I have invited Christine Happel, Kristen Schwartzer, and Katie Beaumont, directors of Village Connections, Village in the Ville, and At Home by High to Council, and if they could come on up to give us an update on their senior programming and the progress they've made with the council support earlier this year. As you may know, the Village Network in Columbus currently consists of those 3 organizations, have made great strides in empowering older adults by improving the resiliency of our neighborhoods. Villages provide socialization, opportunities for civic engagement, and connection to services provided by volunteers. This work is done through a grassroots approach, further exemplifying the great contributions our older residents provide to our community. And as you all know, we would not be where we are with Age Friendly Columbus without the Village's leadership. I know Katie White from Morpsey is here, and my co-chair Fran Ryan, and all of your support to that effort is appreciated. Through the Villages, they've participated in leadership roles during the research and planning phase of Age Friendly and will continue to be leaders of our strategic steps and implementation. Support for the Villages comes from the Franklin County Office on Aging, Central Ohio Area Agency on Agency, and most recently, Columbus City Council. The funding from Council has supported efforts to increase the numbers of villages in operation, as well as increase the number of lower income older residents served. So I would like you all to speak, Christine, Kristen, and Katie, and really appreciate your ongoing leadership and work to grow the village network throughout our city.
Thank you, Council Member Stinziano, President Klein, and the other members of Council. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. In 2013, Village Connections became the first village in Central Ohio after volunteers of the German Village Society spent time researching the concept and talking to other villages around the country. Now led by Kristen Schweitzer, Village Connections has become a vital support network for neighbors in German Village, Marion Village, Schumacher Place, Brewery District, and downtown. The funding from City Council has allowed Village Connections to lower their membership fees, which has served as a wonderful recruitment tool. They've added several members in the last 2 months. Based on Village Connections' success, neighbors in Clintonville began working to form a second village in 2014. As a program of the Clintonville Beachwald Community Resources Center, Village in the Ville serves neighbors in Clintonville, Beachwald, and a part of the University District area. I am proud to be the program director and excited to be a part of this community-led approach to healthy aging. The funding from City Council has allowed Village in the Ville to increase its number of subsidized memberships and continue to engage members in meaningful ways. In late 2016, Katie Beaumont, met a neighbor at an age-friendly Columbus event, and they discussed their mutual desire to provide support for older adults in the Short North. The mentorship of Village Connections, Village in the Ville, and Age-Friendly Columbus accelerated the creation of the third village in our city. At Home by High will launch later this year to serve the Short North neighborhoods, the remaining portion of the University District, and Milo Grogan. Together, we have become the Greater Columbus Network of Villages, allowing us to offer a wider array of services, events, and activities for all village members to connect with the community. In addition to the generosity of City Council and our other funders, we could not serve village members without dedicated volunteers, donors, interns, AmeriCorps Vista members, and our business sponsors. And tonight we are joined by Katie White, the director of the Clintonville CRC, the president of my advisory board, and our Vista member. And I'd like to also thank them for their support in addition to giving our heartfelt thanks to you all.
Thank you for that update. Do my colleagues have any comments they want to make? Could you let us know if anyone in the audience or watching at home would like more information on any of the villages or the network where they could go to get that information?
Certainly. Well, I guess I could just serve to be a point of contact. My name is Christine Happel, and you can reach me at the Clintonville Beachwald Community Resources Center, as we call it, the Clintonville CRC, and you could call 614-268-3539, and we all chat pretty regularly, so we'll get you in the right place.
Again, thank you all for your leadership and for all you've been doing for our age-friendly residents in the city of Columbus.
Thank you.
And that's all I have tonight. President Klein.
Thank you, President Klein. I'm going to ask Senator Charlita Tavares, President and CEO of Primary One Health, to come to the podium, please. This resolution is numbered 0261X-2017. It is to recognize, congratulate, and thank Primary One Health for 20 years of providing high-quality health care services to the residents of the City of Columbus and Central Ohio. Whereas Primary One Health has provided high-quality, comprehensive primary care and preventative health care services in Central Ohio for 20 years and is the region's longest serving federally qualified health center. And whereas, as the country's largest primary health care network, health centers now serve as a health care home for over 25 million Americans in over 10,000 delivery sites across the nation. 1 in every 13 people in the United States gets their health care in a community health center. 1 in 13. Whereas health centers like Primary One are a critical element of the health care system, serving both rural and urban populations and often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in their communities. Whereas every day health centers are developing new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of their community. And whereas health centers are locally controlled by patient majority boards, ensuring that the patients of the healthcare system are engaged in their own healthcare decisions. And whereas health centers like Primary One Health nationally employ 190,000 people, including physicians, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, and certified nurse midwives who work as part of a multidisciplinary clinical teams designed to treat the whole patient. And whereas the health center model continues to provide an effective means of overcoming barriers to healthcare access, and in doing so, improves healthcare outcomes and reduces the healthcare system costs. Whereas health centers reduce overall costs of care by managing chronic conditions and keeping patients out of costlier health care settings like hospital emergency rooms. And whereas health centers are on the front lines of major health care crises that our country faces, including providing access to care for our nation's veterans, addressing the opioid epidemic, and responding to health threats like the Zika virus and measles outbreaks. Whereas as part of its 20th anniversary, Primary One celebrated its third annual Care Justice Awards on Thursday, October the 5th of 2017. And this event celebrated the individuals and providers in our community who are working to eliminate health barriers, expanding access to health and wellness, breaking down cultural and social barriers. Now therefore be it resolved by this council that this council does hereby recognize and congratulate and thank Primary One Health for 20 years of providing high-quality health care services to the residents of the city of Columbus and Central Ohio. I move for adoption.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you. And Reed Fraley was one of the individuals who got the award at your event, as well as Angela Cornelius Dawson. Correct?
That's
yes.
correct.
Thank you. All right. The floor is yours, Senator Tavares.
Thank you very much. President Pro Tem Tyson and Council President Klein, members of council, I want to introduce Yolanda Owens, who was responsible for the Healthcare Justice Award celebration that we had on October the 5th. So I'm going to have her share some comments after I thank you all first and foremost for your partnership with Primary One Health over not only the last 20 years, but since 1973. The first health center in Columbus was back in 1973. That was the Billy Jones Brown Health Center that was on the east side of Columbus. And if it hadn't been for former council member Les Wright and former health commissioner Bill Myers, we wouldn't have Primary One Health today, and we wouldn't have a federally qualified health care system in the city of Columbus. You all came together as a council back in 1997 due to a crisis and formed what was then called Columbus Neighborhood Health Center, Inc. And Columbus Neighborhood Health Center, Inc. then became Primary One Health in May of 2015. So we have a short history as Primary One Health, and we are very, very, very appreciative not only of council's assistance in establishing Primary One Health, but also the partnership with Columbus Public Health. We not only share staff, we share facilities, and certainly we have expertise that assist us with advice on our health board. I want to thank Nancy Bechtel, who has served on our board as an ex officio member, and she continues to give us advice. Certainly we want to thank Dr. Long, who's been a longtime supporter of Primary One Health. And on behalf of our board and staff, our board is chaired by Dr. Carol Anderson, who's a former chair of the health board here in Central Ohio. We want to thank everyone for all of your support. And I'm going to ask Yolanda to talk a little bit more about the Healthcare Justice Awards and why it means so much to Central Ohio.
Thank you. President Klein, President Pro Tem Tyson, and members of council. One of the things that made the Healthcare Justice Awards so important is because we're not able to do the work that Primary One Health does alone. It's a community health center, and so it takes an entire community, which is why we have a majority community and patient-based board. One of the things that's really important for us to be able to share every time we have our Healthcare Justice Awards is featuring a patient member. And this year we were able to feature one of our patient board members who is actually our president-elect, Candy Pringle. And she shared a little bit about her family and the fact that her family has 4 generations that are patients of Primary One Health. Herself, her mother, her daughters, and her grandchildren are all patients of Primary One Health. And she actually initially wasn't even a patient of Primary One Health, but after her daughter passed away in 2011, and her grandson was a patient of Primary One Health, she wanted to continue his service. And in doing that, she became a patient of Primary One Health. And then because of the services and the way that she was able to integrate her care, not only being able to get her medical and her vision and her dental, but also being able to address her grief issues and having behavioral health services all in one location was so important to her that by the end of that year, she joined the board at Primary One Health. So these are the types of services that Primary One Health wants to continue to offer here in Central Ohio, and it's so important to us, especially right now in this time. I'm not sure if you're aware, but as of October 1st, there was a federal healthcare funding cliff, And with the funds that will be retracted from community health centers, they'll be losing about 70% of the federal funds that they typically get to be able to serve the communities that they serve. Primary One Health this year, we're slated to serve about 40,000 patients. Of those 40,000 patients, 5,300 will lose access to services because of this funding cliff if the Congress does not move toward making a decision before the end of this year. So this is why we try to celebrate the community and those people who are pushing forward policies to be able to help serve those in our communities and help grow health centers like Primary One Health. When we started in '97, we had 7 health centers here in Columbus, and now we've moved to have 11 health centers and grow to be the largest and the longest serving Central Ohio Community Health Center. So thank you so much for your partnership and hope to be able to continue to serve the city of Columbus.
Any questions, Councilman colleagues? Councilmember Page.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. And I just have a comment and to thank you, Senator Tavares, for your leadership over Primary One Health and just how it's grown since you have been, again, the leader, and helping to erase the stigma of receiving behavioral health counseling and services at your center, particularly for people who are already vulnerable for a lot of different reasons. So I appreciate that. There are presidents and CEOs of other federally health care qualified centers who tell me to refer people to Primary One Health, and I think that that's amazing to have your colleagues across this area to refer individuals to the work that you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to share, because Elfie DeBella was here tonight and the work that she does with the YWCA. We have a Healthcare for the Homeless program, and it's really important that we work with our partners in the community, those that are providing housing and stabilization with their basic needs. And so the partnership is critically important with all of our community organizations if we are going to serve the whole person and ensure that people that are struggling get their basic needs met. So I thank you, thank Columbus City Council, and you all should applaud yourselves because you're one of very few cities in America. I know that Boston, but there are very few cities in America that have lifted up their community's health through direct funding. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tavares. And can you share with our viewing and listening audience, should they be in need of any healthcare services, how they could come and be and get their healthcare services from Primary One?
Sure. So you can always visit our website, www.primaryonehealth.org. There you can see all of our providers. There's a picture, there's little bios, excuse me, from a lot of our providers there. And you can also call 614, because we have more than one area code now, 614-645-5500. And we can help direct you, 1, to the services that you need, and then 2, to one of the many Central Ohio sites that might be closest to wherever you're located.
Thank you. And I'll just lastly read your mission. Our mission is to provide access to services that improve the health status of families, including people experiencing financial, social, or cultural barriers to health care. Thank you. Thank you. I have a couple of announcements. The first is on October the 26th. It is the 6th annual Restored Citizen Summit. It's called Building Pathways to Change. If you know of anyone have ever been incarcerated or on probation or on parole, join us for the Restored Citizen Summit to receive assistance with employment resources, housing information, community resources, health and wellness resources, healthcare enrollment, lifting legal barriers, child support assistance, and substance abuse information and entrepreneurship. It is going to be, again, the 26th from 8:30 to 3 o'clock at Columbus State Community College, 315 Cleveland Avenue, 614-287-2104. This is a wonderful a summit that will certainly provide lots of resources for individuals who are seeking a second chance. Also, I want to, on the 27th, there'll be the Senior Living Festival. It will be at Hollywood Casino from 10 to 2, and all sorts of resources will be available for our seniors. And lastly, there will be a hearing on this week on, I, along with council members Elizabeth Brown, Shannon Hard, and Jisa Page, are hosting and co-chairing a housing committee meeting to review the 2015 through 2019 City of Columbus Consolidated Plan. And the funding associated with the consolidated plan provides necessary resource to support entrepreneurship, small business development, affordable housing, and public health for at-risk residents. The Department of Finance and Management, Department of Development are presenting the consolidated plan for public consideration. And the hearing is Wednesday in council chambers. I believe it's at 5:30 p.m. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Any comments by our elected officials or their designees, Auditor Dorian, Treasurer's Office, City Attorney's Office? I don't see anyone here from the municipal court. Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? May we now have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Clerk Blevins, will you now read into the record the ordinance numbers of each on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Economic Development Committee, Ordinance 2746-2017. Environment Committee, Resolution 265X-2017. Ordinance 2666-2017. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinance 2699-2017. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 2464, 2527, 2549, 2551, 2622, 2626, 2629, 2706, 2709, 2715-2017. Zoning Committee, Ordinances 2604 and 2735-2017.
Thank you, Clerk. The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent. Will you read the ordinance numbers of those into the record?
Resolutions of Expression 283X, 273X, 285X-2017. Finance Committee, Ordinances 2479, 2499, 2652-2017. Economic Development Committee, Ordinances 2642 and 2751-2017. Environment Committee, Resolution 252X-2017. Administration Committee, Ordinances 1328 and 2702-2017. Public Safety Committee, Ordinances 2585 and 2586-2017. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinances 1493, 2588, 2603, 2617, 2624, 2672, 2686, 2687, 2689-2017. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinances 2370, 2371, 2375, and 2674-2017. Housing Committee, Ordinance 2729-2017. Technology Committee, Ordinance 2470-2017. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 2412, 2517, 2528, 2578, 2611, 2669-2017. Judiciary and Court Administration Committee, Ordinances 2352 and 2357-2017. Appointments from the Mayor's Office, numbered A0179-2017.
Thank you. We do have one speaker on the consent action. It's Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, welcome back to council. Looks like you're speaking in favor of 2729-2017. It's in the Housing Committee. If you just could state your address, any organizations you represent, you'll have 3 minutes.
1612 Arlington Avenue, Chairman, solely vacant and abandoned property in North Linden area. I just want to know how long that 1246 East 22nd, how long it's been in the land bank and what will this property be used for? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Director Shoney, if you could follow up Mr. Wilkins and answer that question, we would appreciate those 2 questions. We'd really appreciate it. Any other questions or comments on the consent action portion of the agenda? Seeing none, can I have a motion for approval of those items designated as consent? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown?
Mr. Brown? Hardin? Page?
Yes, with the exception of 0252X-2017, on which I am abstaining.
Stenziano? Tyson?
Yes, with the exception of 2603-2017, on which I am abstaining.
President Klein?
Yes, consent action carries with the notable exceptions. We'll now proceed to second reading of 30-day tabled and emergency legislation. The first committee is Public Safety. It's chaired by Councilmember Mitch Brown. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Ordinance number 2534-2017 to authorize and direct the Director of Public Safety to enter into a contract with SGI Matrix LLC for the upgrade of security system software parts, installation, training, and support for various facilities of the Division of Police, to waive competitive bidding, and to authorize the expenditure of $30,003.89 from the Division of Police Law Enforcement Seizure Fund. Director Pettis, would you address the issue of the waiving competitive bidding, please?
Yes, Councilmember Brown, President Klein, members of council. We are asking to waive competitive bidding due to the proprietary nature of the security software and compatibility of existing security equipment.
Thank you. If there are no additional questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Legislation passes.
That's all we have in public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Our next committee is Public Utilities. It's chaired by Councilmember Stenziano. Chair Stenziano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Tonight in Public Utilities have Ordinance 2382-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Laney Inlier LLC for the 2016 annual lining project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $6,173,811.55 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize the expenditure of $6,173,811.55 from the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, and to amend the 2017 capital improvements budget to provide sufficient authority. Work for this project consists of the rehabilitation of approximately 43,000 feet of sewer manhole rehabilitation and other such work as may be necessary. The division determines the areas that are in need of the rehab through video inspection of sewer and stormwater lines. This contract will address projects throughout the city as sewer line issues arise. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I'll move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Next, Ordinance 2630-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase an existing engineering agreement with Black & VTech Corp. For the Wastewater Treatment Facilities Upgrade General Program Number 4, overall engineering consultant services, and to expand up to $1 million from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, contingent upon the 2017 bond sale. This legislation is a planned modification, extends the time, and adds budget to perform the same work for an additional year. The basic services to be provided under this agreement are professional engineering services. Consultant services are necessary to provide technical and engineering assistance to the city and its design professionals in planning and coordination of the work. The engineering firm will assist the city with the planning and documenting the required modifications to the facilities to meet all National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit conditions, all EPA air permitting requirements, anticipate future regulatory requirements, and to protect the water quality and air quality in the Columbus facilities planning area. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I'll move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
That's all we have in utilities this evening.
Thank you, Chair. Any other business to come before council? I know we have 6 non-agenda speakers that we will take momentarily. We have zoning at 6:30. Any other business? Comments, questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn? Regular meeting number 51. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We now stand adjourned. Regular meeting number 52 will now come to order. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Page chairs that committee. All members serve on the committee. Chair Page, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before beginning our zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents and 3 opponents, and we ask that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side, and we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, we ask that anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against any council variance, including staff, to please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. That includes anyone who also submitted a speaker slip. I swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Our first variance is 2668-2017 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332-037R2F Residential District, 3332-05 Area District Lot Width Requirements, 3332-14R2F Area District Requirements, 3332-19 Fronting, 3332-25B Maximum Side Yards Required, 3332-26C minimum side yard permitted, and 3332-27 rear yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 989 Pennsylvania Avenue, 43201, to permit 2 single-unit dwellings on 1 lot and a 2-unit dwelling on a new lot with reduced development standards in the R2F residential district. The applicant is Laura Caldy. The proposed use is a residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Harrison West Society's recommendation is approval. I would like to ask for a staff presentation.
Good evening. The site consists of 1 parcel developed with a single-unit dwelling in the R2F residential district. The applicant proposes to split the property into 2 parcels. The southern parcel, containing the existing single-unit dwelling, will be developed with an additional dwelling above a detached garage, a carriage house. The northern parcel will be developed with a 2-unit dwelling for a total of 4 dwelling units on 2 parcels. A council variance is necessary because the existing zoning district only permits 1 single or 1 2-unit dwelling per lot. Variances for lot width, area district requirements, fronting, maximum side yards, minimum side yard, and rear yard are included. The site is within the planning area of the Harrison West Plan, which recommends single and 2-unit dwellings at this location. Staff supports the proposed density for each lot, noting that this is consistent with the plan's recommendation. Additionally, staff notes the applicant is preserving an existing contributing building and incorporating it into the development proposal. The request is compatible with the recent development pattern in historic urban neighborhoods and will not introduce a new or intrusive use. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? We do have 1 speaker speaking against this variance. If Mr. Max Elmy could please come down to the podium. Welcome to council this evening. Mr. Elmy, you have 3 minutes, and thank you. If you could also let us know any organizations you're representing.
I represent myself. I'm the one who lives next door to this property. Good evening. My name is Max Elmy. I live in the property next door to this proposed property. I've been there for past 20 years. And the proposal I received from them, what I'm gathering, the investors want to put 2 units in each property, which is a total of 4 units. And in order to get that, they want to add a so-called carriage house to one of the properties. Carriage house, it means the property is accessed from the alley. There was another property across from this a few years ago. It has the same exact condition. It has a carriage house. The alley, the service road, is not designed and conditioned to handle the traffic and parkings. There was always problem with the parking. There was always problem with the park in front of my garage. There were all those 55 containers, trash cans from the city. They moved all those around because they could not park. They put on front of my garage. The big truck from the city who picked up the trash, it couldn't make it through the valley because of the parking cars. So it was always inconvenient. Most of the time, they skipped that section altogether. They did not pick up the trash. And I don't believe it's very convenient for the residents and the future buyer of this investment property. And the second lot, they are creating a 27-foot wide lot, and they want to put 2 properties, 2 buildings in the 27-foot wide property, which is very narrow. In order to get this enough footage, they want to get footage from either side. Their easement on the north side, which is my building, they're asking for 2 feet of easement, which is this much. I'm assuming they're going to put a large building, 2- or 3-story building. How are they going to put the siding? How are they going to put the window? How are they going to maintain this property, their gutters, the overhang? I'm assuming it's going to be in my property. It's going to be inconvenient for myself and the future buyer of this investment property. My property has 4 feet of easement on that side. So they have to enter that in order to maintain that side. Going back to the history of that, the building north of me, it has only 1.5 foot of the easement next to me. They have a big dog, and they put a big fence around it. After they put the fence, they realize that they cannot go the front lawn from the back. Every time they mow the lawn, they have to knock on my door, and I have to open the gate in the back alley, let them with the lawnmowers go to my property, go to the front, and mow the lawn. I don't believe this is convenient for the future buyer of this property and the current residents. My house built in 1900, and it has 4 feet of easement. This building in 2017, with 2 feet of easement, I don't believe is going to be a very logical choice. I'm asking the council, please stay by the regular guidelines and rules and regulation of this neighborhood, not for the sake of the more profit on the investment property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elmi. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Stenziano.
Did you raise these issues with the Harrison West Society?
Actually, I met the owner, Mr. Chris, is a very nice gentleman. When he bought the property, I welcomed him to the neighborhood, and he said the intention to have an investment, which is fine, perfectly fine. We need improvement and investment in this property, but building 2 units in each property, which is a very small, narrow lot, I don't believe is going to be a very wise choice for this neighborhood. The condensity, the traffic, parking, and all those, I don't believe it's going to be. If they build 1 unit, which is most of the buildings are, I believe it's going to be much better suited for this neighborhood.
So to clarify, did you raise these issues with the Harrison
No,
West
actually, I
Society?
haven't get a chance to meet with the investors. The only one I met was gentleman Chris Hammer, I believe, which I haven't seen him today.
Not the investors, the area that reviews proposals.
No,
the Harrison
unfortunately,
West Society.
I was out of the country. I work for the Department of Commerce and out of state, so I was out of state during that time. I received a letter, same letter, but unfortunately, during the hearing, I was not in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elmi. Are there, Councilmember Mitch Brown.
Thank you, Chairman Page. Just a question about, you said
Yes,
the
sir.
sanitation, the 90-gallon garbage that they have, how's it picked up now?
Actually, the building I was talking about that, it was demolished. It took years from this code enforcement and probably half of the neighborhood to raise the issues. What the city did, that the code enforcement did, they did not allow any new permit to renovate and update the building. So they have to demolish and level that building, which is problem is solved at this time. Those containers, they put 1 between each properties. And because they want to park on those areas, they move all those containers, in front of my garage. Every time I move them, they move them back. That was the lesser of the problem, because they parked their car on the street. The big truck, which is pick up the trash from the city, they could not make it through the alley. So every once in a while, they skip that section altogether. So we have to call the appropriate people in the city that said the trash is not picked up, the dumpsters are full. And they reply, our truck couldn't make it through that section. They skipped it altogether.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elmi.
Thank you very much.
Again, I would like to ask, is the applicant or a representative for the applicant present? Welcome to council, and do you have the opportunity for rebuttal and to respond to Mr. Elmi's concerns?
Good evening. I'm Brent Racer with New Avenue Architects and Engineers. Laura's just had a baby, so she wasn't able to be here today. But we did work with Harrison West in a number of meetings, individual meetings with them, business development meetings, and had gone back with them in order to save the contributing building that's on site. The asks that we're getting or we're asking for as far as the variance requests are almost all granted in a previous submission that was in 2016, I believe. The development that we're proposing, also we are following all the building codes as far as the separation the hourly ratings and things that we need for any walls that are going to be within 5 feet of the adjacent building, including any of the soffits and things. There will be nothing that, per our development plan, that would encroach onto anyone else's property, including the existing contributing building that's present on site. The R2F does allow for 2 dwelling units per property, which that's what we're trying to fall within. The variances that we're requesting are basically dealing with the size of the unit, or I'm sorry, the size of the lot. So we'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Which slide is it? President Klein. Councilmember Mitch Brown.
Sorry. No, Chairman Page, just a question along the lines of 2 units versus 1 in this particular location, so it doesn't have an impact, a negative impact on the existing dwellers, let alone, as I just asked a question about the containers, making sure that they're able to be addressed appropriately in the sense of when the city sends the service trucks or Rumpke to come and deal with that. How would you propose to handle that?
One of the things that we did specifically look at after meeting with Harrison West was the parking impact. So we actually have slid the garage portions to allow for additional parking on the street. We certainly can work with Harrison West or the neighborhood to make sure that if we have to continue to slide those effectively away from the alley to allow areas for those dumpster containers to be at the edge of the property, we're more than willing to do that. There's also some space between the two garages and the 2 driveways that you can see that we would certainly be willing to kind of do whatever we would need to add some concrete areas in order for those to be left in an area that's out of everybody's way and still able to be picked up by city sanitation.
If the developer can make sure that those comments that he just made are appropriate for staff so that that can be incorporated into the plan, I think that's appropriate.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Harden.
Just quickly, this is just out of ignorance and of not knowing how to build, but to his statement that with 1 foot or 2 foot easement, how will the actual building of that property affect his property with that?
The sites like this are built on all the time. We've got 3 feet from the property line to our building. The full intent of that is not to be impacting anyone else's property. If they would certainly be communicating with anyone else. The property that's actually on the south side is an existing structure. That's actually closer than what even city code would allow for anything that's not a 0 lot line. And there's some work we have to do there as well. We certainly will be either handling that from inside, working effectively inside the structure, or have to communicate with the adjacent owner to make sure that we get everything coordinated during the construction process.
President Klein. Are there any more questions or comments for the architect? Thank you. Are there any additional comments from staff? And Councilmember Mitchell Brown, so that I can clarify your request, as far as what he was talking about with the issues with Rumpke and the concrete, you would like to see some changes in the text in order to make sure that he complies with that?
That would be correct. I mean, I think staff ought to make certain, if he's willing to make those comments, to make certain that that's actually incorporated into the plan.
Well, based on that, what I would like to do this evening is table this variance until our next zoning meeting, which would be, I believe, October 30th, in order to give you the opportunity to speak with staff and to address the issues and comments from this evening. So if there are no questions or comments, I move to table this variance until October 30th.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you. 2670-2017 to rezone 700 Fairway Boulevard 43123, being approximately 3.87 acres, located on the north side of Fairway Boulevard, approximately 400 feet west of Etna Road, from PUD 2 Planned Unit Development District to PUD 4 Planned Unit Development District. The applicant is 14th Hole Development LLC. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Far East Area Commission's recommendation is approval. I'd like to ask for a staff presentation.
The site is undeveloped and zoned in the PUD Planned Unit Development District, permitting 3 single-unit dwellings at a net density of 0.78 units per acre. The requested PUD 4 Planned Unit Development District will permit 14 attached dwelling units arranged in 2 buildings containing 4 units each and 1 building containing 6 units, with a net density of 3.62 units per acre and with 0.2 acres of provided open space. The development text includes commitments for the number of dwelling units and their arrangement on site, first floor minimum net floor areas, garage requirements, building materials, building setbacks, landscaping, tree and vegetation preservation, and a commitment to a plan and elevation drawings. Variances to reduce the building setback for a guardhouse monument feature and golf cart garages and perimeter yard adjacent to a private golf course are included in the request. The site lies within the planning area of the broad Blacklick Area Plan, which recommends open space for this location. Although the plan calls for open space, staff recognizes that the site was already zoned for residential development and was privately owned prior to the plan's adoption. The development text and site plan submitted are sensitive to the existing natural resources of the site, provide alternatives to private automobiles for transportation, include elevation drawings that are generally consistent with the plan's design guidelines, and are compatible with surrounding land uses. City departments recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, the applicant's attorney, Jeff Brown, is present. Do you have any initial comments?
If I could, President Klein, members of council, my name is Jeff Brown. I represent the applicant. This piece of property and the golf course are 2 pieces that are in the city of Columbus. The surrounding properties and across the street are in the city of Whitehall. There's been a lot of interest in terms of the golf course members for empty nest housing. There are members of the golf course that were able to put a real estate deal together in order to develop this piece of property. So what we tried to do with our layout and our building orientation was to create 3 larger buildings to match the original zoning, which allowed 3 lots on the property. So what we were trying to do with this is to create empty nest housing. That's the golf course. This is Fairway. Here's a neighbor to the south. Here's a neighbor to the north. You see here a large setback stream preservation corridor. We're actually next to an empty lot, and then there's another house on the next lot over. We went to the area commission. They recommended approval. We sat and met with both staff of the zoning department and the planning department. They're recommending approval. We went to the development commission. They recommended approval, asked us to do some additional screening along here for that neighbor. We've done that. We have a cart path connection to the golf course here. We've got garages for the golf carts out here, and our garages for the homes are all internal. So you drive by and you don't see a bunch of garage doors. So what we are trying to do is meet a need for empty nesters, access to the golf course. As staff has indicated, we have provided building elevations, committed to a site plan as part of that overall process. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have after you hear from some neighbors.
Prior to hearing from our speakers, could you please talk briefly about your request to amend to emergency?
Yes, if we could, and that I understand that's at your discretion. We've had a beautiful month of October that allows a lot of work, but it's usually not normal. And you can see with this week with the change in the weather. When you try to build this time of year, there are costs and delays associated with construction. Columbus is a growing city. There's competitions for our subs and other contractors that would be used on this project. Obviously, in terms of this, we want to sell these condos. The quicker you finish them, then you can bring them to market. So because of the timing of the year, the pressure on the subs just due to the demand for subs and building materials, as the result of some natural disasters. Those prices have increased. If the council is comfortable for that, we would like to request that so we can continue to move forward.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. Are there any questions? Councilmember Mitch Brown.
Thank you, Chair Page. Mr. Brown, just a question. What monument feature, what are we talking about? In the document?
We have what we propose, Councilmember Brown, is a little gatehouse right here. This, as I said, this is Whitehall on the right side. We talked with the city of Whitehall. They told us from an access standpoint how we do this, and we're looking at just to put a little gatehouse as an entry design feature right here.
Okay. So a monument feature is just for the gatehouse, is
yes.
that? Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Elizabeth Brown.
Just curious, what makes these empty nester dwellings rather than just multifamily?
In terms of the basic design, they are a one-floor product, and they have a second floor if you want to put it in all within the same roof line. So if you want to have a bonus room or something that, or an extra bedroom, the market demand that, and the feedback that we've gotten has been for empty nester type housing. People that live in Bexley or other areas that their children have now grown out and are out of the house and are not coming back. There's the opportunity to do something. They also have a group of people that have second homes. And so something like this would be very attractive. And the connection with the golf course, I think it makes it very desirable for that type of market. If you look at golf courses that have been built in Central Ohio in the last 20, 25 years, this type of housing has always been part of their overall development. Given the time when this club was established, there wasn't an interest. And so we're doing something that is very common and compatible with a golf course, but we're doing it at a later stage just in terms of when the course was built versus when this property became available.
And they're designed to be compatible with aging in place? Is that part of the
Yes.
design of the unit?
Yes.
So, okay.
I mean, again, the first floor master and everything.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? We do have two speakers this evening speaking against, thank you, Mr. Brown, speaking against this variance. Our first speaker is Tiffany English. Welcome to council, Tiffany. Again, you have 3 minutes. If you could let us know any organizations that you are representing as well.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Inglis, and I am a resident that lives just to the south of this development, so I don't have any other connections besides this where I live. We bought this home recently, a couple of years ago. We have a family with children. I don't know how many of you have ever been down Fairway Boulevard in Whitehall. It's a beautiful street. It's what you'd call an estate street. These are homes that have been there for a very long time. South of the property, there are 9 residences with 90 acres, okay? And their proposal puts 14 residences on 3 acres. So this doesn't meet the character of our neighborhood, and it doesn't meet the character of what we all envisioned for the street, and it also doesn't meet the character of what that lot was always meant to be, which was single-family residences. And I think that is the issue that we as a neighborhood have. We did have some issues as well with their communication with us, and I think that that's important for you guys to know. I live directly adjacent to the property. I was not informed of the first meeting they had at the Columbus Country Club, where most of us are not actual members. And I was not informed of it until 2 hours after the meeting had started, with an envelope thrown on my porch. They obviously know my address. This is not a question. They stated that they sent that to my previous address, which we had had to stay at my father's home for 3 months because this house wasn't ready when we sold our other home. I never got that at my father's address, so that wasn't really received. They then were asked at the last meeting to have a meeting with us in a more cordial fashion because they said they were willing to work with us. I got that meeting notice 1 hour before the meeting. My husband works evenings. I have 2 small children. I can't just go. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of why they're not willing to work with us if this is truly thought to be a residential empty nester, not multi-unit facility, because I think it just really is a multi-unit facility. And I think in the end, what you'll see is all of our homes are very set back from the road. We have much property around us. They've already destroyed all of the trees on the land. They did that last week. And they're literally putting something right on the road and adding a significant amount of traffic on a street that's not really meant for that. Again, 9 homes, 90 acres, 14-3. So I think if you guys could take that into your consideration, I think there's a volume issue here, and I think it could be easily alleviated if they would just work together. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. English. I actually have a question for you. Oh, no problem. As far as the meetings that you said you got notice of either after the meeting or just an hour before, do you know what those meetings were? Were they civic association meetings or area commission?
They had, the developers invited us, I guess, to meetings at the country club to review their plan. But the country club gates were locked and closed, and we're not members, so we couldn't even get in. So the people who did actually try to go were not able to enter. They had to get out of their car and walk around the gates and basically trespass to get in. So yeah, that was kind of what happened.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Ms. English? Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you all.
And our next speaker is Thomas Weaver. Welcome to council, Mr. Weaver, and you also have 3 minutes. If you could let us know any organizations that you are representing as well.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Weaver, as she said, and I'm representing myself. I am the owner of the property at 707 Fairway Boulevard. It's really interesting. I was the one who climbed around the fence and trespassed to get to the meeting because I understand the whole development process. We moved to that home in 2007, and one of the reasons why we wanted to stay there is because of my civic, church, and my business responsibilities here. We love that street. Those of you who have driven down that street know that it's picturesque. It's a scenic drive. It's my little bit of country in the city. I really enjoy that. I'm speaking in opposition to this basically because there were many issues and hostilities that are present. I was the individual at the zoning board who suggested that we table it, come together, try to meet. There can be some kind of resolution to this. Of course, I was also the individual who didn't get notice till afterwards. On the second one, didn't get notice till afterwards. And so being directly across the street and directly affected by it, I was upset about it because I was trying to be the mediator with all the hostilities in the room. I personally think that the developer took advantage between the disconnect between Whitehall and Columbus. They understand the development process in Columbus, but Whitehall, that is termed an estate street, and we're taxed as such as being an estate street. And as it was mentioned, it's 10 residents in a 90-acre parcel. So this particular property, and I see what the architect did, he put 3 different units to address the 1 unit per acre issue, but in addition to that, he added multiple units within that. There are no guarantees that this is going to be empty nesters. There's nothing that says that they're not going to change their mind. It's what they're going to do, how they're going to sell, who they're going to sell to, or anything like that. One of my other issues is that this particular property in itself, and the architect had mentioned, it was a closed group of individuals who were actually made aware of this particular parcel being made available for sale. So that same closed group of individuals are now asking us to make some public concessions as to allow them to have more units in that particular space. I think that I don't have a problem with the process of developing that parcel. My biggest issue is the number of units that they're trying to put there. I also think that we have an opportunity for some resolution. I think that if we're able to table this, come together, and get some sort of good neighbor agreement to address some of these issues. Because we've done this in the past in Milo Grogan, and we've done it with Northeast Rec Center when we were doing that particular project. But I think that there's some concerns that we could address if we table this and if we come together and do a good neighbor agreement. And I have some suggestions to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Elizabeth Brown.
I mean, other than decreasing the units to 3 single-family homes, I am curious. I mean, I don't want to overly emphasize a sort of negotiation on this stage or anything like that, but I am kind of curious if you could briefly touch on what your thoughts are for a good neighbor agreement.
Oh, great. I'm glad you asked that. I just
That's
didn't have
all right.
time to address it.
Chair Page, is that okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that I think there has to be more dialogue with the city of Whitehall. The mayor agreed to the project itself. But again, and also the challenge that we have is we're not representing the neighbors on Fairway are not represented on the Northeast, I'm sorry, on the Far East Area Commission. So even though they agreed to the project, there's no one who was directly impacted that were a part of that discussion. So again, I think the developer understands the disconnect there. I think that also that you have to, they mentioned that it was age in place, elderly housing, but we have no assurances that the developer is going to use that for that purpose. So that's also can be in the verbiage in a good neighbor agreement. I also think that somehow in the association, some official, some elected official in the city of Whitehall has to be a part of that association group, because that way this disconnect can't happen, or we could hold the Whitehall city official responsible for that disconnect. So if the mayor says that she wants to do this and it does not turn out to be a good ideal, then we could hold her accountable on the next election. Now, my also challenge that I have is the developer jumped the gun. It was mentioned earlier by Ms. English. There's nothing, he stripped the property already. All the trees are gone. The green space that you all know is going down Fairway, and that's even before approval here. So I have some challenges with that, with them jumping the gun, even before the stamp of approval, even before you give the stamp of approval. So I have major challenges with that. I also think that there has to be, the setback has to be addressed. There's a 200-foot setback. They're talking about putting a guardhouse right at the edge of the street. They're also talking, if you look at the units, and I walked the property today, it's going to be very tight for them to fulfill that 200-foot setback. Not sure they can use it do that with the density that they proposed. So all of those things have to be addressed in a good neighbor agreement, has to be in writing, because and let's see, how should I say this? With the inconsistencies that the developer has had so far and the mistrust that the neighbors have with that person, there's no guarantee that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. So in order to assure they're going to do what they say they're going to do, we need something written down so that we can hold them accountable as well as you can hold them accountable. If they violate the green space issues or anything like that, it can be considered a code violation, and you can fine them accordingly. But the biggest thing is that they have to connect with Whitehall and with the surrounding neighbors, not just the Near East Area Association or Far East Area Association, but with the neighbors themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Weaver. All right. Councilmember Stenziano.
Did you raise with the Far East Area Commission the concept of a good neighbors agreement?
We're not, because we're on Fairway and we're not even a part of that. And because we're Whitehall, you see the disconnect now?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm very familiar with Fairway Boulevard. But I'm still, I mean, you could still go to those commission meetings and request that.
Well, we don't even get notice because we're not a part of, when I was on the Northeast Area Commission, we gave notice to the surrounding neighbors. But because we're not a part of that area, we don't even receive notices.
And then one quick follow-up. Are you aware for any residents on the Columbus side, if there's anything going on in Whitehall, that they're given notice and they participate?
No, I'm not aware of anything like that.
Thank you.
So, again, that's the disconnect that I was saying between Columbus and Whitehall, and I don't know how to address that issue. Okay.
Thank you. Attorney Brown, you have the opportunity for a rebuttal.
We engaged the city of Whitehall in this discussion because, as I indicated earlier, Fairway Boulevard is in the city of Whitehall, so we have to deal with them on our road access and on utility issues. So they were involved in our discussion. In terms of the size of the lot, we've got Fairway Boulevard on one side and we have a golf hole on the other side. That's as big as this piece of property is. Granted, as the lady says, up there, down there, there are properties that are bigger, but that's how that area was developed. All I can talk about is what's in the city of Columbus and what ground I have left between a golf course and Fairway Boulevard. We sent a letter out. I'll take the hit. I didn't think about saying, come through the Broad Street gate. That's the main entrance. That's the address of the country club. I should have anticipated people from Fairway would come through the rear, which has a gate. That was our fault. We explained that at the Development Commission meeting. We promised that we would have another meeting with the neighbors. We had another meeting with the neighbors. And so we fulfilled our role in terms of having these negotiations. I'm sorry, I don't know how this lady doesn't get her mail. We're using the addresses that come off the auditor's mailing list per the city requirement. You know, the city sets out a process where I'm supposed to go deal with the planning department, the zoning department. We did that. I went to the area commission meeting. I don't control how they do notices. I go to the meetings I'm supposed to go to. I went to this meeting. They approved this unanimously. We had a group of people that showed up at the Development Commission. The Development Commission approved this 5-1. So I think there's been opportunities. If someone wanted to reach out after we had that second meeting and say, hey, have you thought about this? I mean, someone could have picked up the phone and called me. I mean, we looked at this property as being the one piece that's in the city of Columbus. And in terms of the existing zoning, which was done in, I think, 2006, we looked at 3 buildings. You know, if somebody bought across the street or in the neighborhood, they saw the original zoning in 2006, three buildings. So we did 3 buildings, and we turned the driveways and the parking inside like that so you wouldn't see the garage doors when you drove by. We're going to spend over $200,000 on landscaping as part of this project. Now, we did do some clearing. The weather was great. The areas that would be preserved in terms of this plan were preserved, are still preserved. The gentleman asked for a commitment, and better than a good neighbor agreement, the plan, the building elevations are all part of the zoning. So the zoning code enforcement can look at the documents if you would approve this. If there's a problem, they can look and they can cite us. So what we were asked to do, we have done. I'm sorry that we didn't have a better meeting at the beginning, but we came back and had a meeting between now and the council. And we made some additional comments and changes based on those conversations and what we were asked to do at the Development Commission. So it's a piece that's in the city of Columbus. It's an appropriate use. We tried in terms of our neighbors. You know, this stream protection corridor over here, we stay out of. We've stayed out of that. That's a great buffer between us and the lady who spoke. Down here, there was originally a house that was on this property. That house got knocked down. It's an empty lot at the moment. So I think it's an appropriate land use. Your planners, your Development Commission members, your area commission all agreed that this is an appropriate location in the city of Columbus for what we're talking about doing. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. President Pro Tem Tyson.
Thank you, Councilmember Page and Chair Page. So then the second meeting, Attorney Brown, were there a number of people present in the second meeting?
Yes, there were people there that were actually different that weren't there at the first meeting. And so we had a variety of people coming in and out.
Okay. And I don't think there would be, I mean, they were asking for a good neighbor agreement, and I think Councilmember Brown asked the question. I don't know what would be in a good, most good neighbor agreements, maybe the lights go off at a certain time or, you know, things of that nature. So I'm not sure if a good neighbor agreement would only mean that possibly they would have, if they want the units to be fewer, that's not part of a good neighbor agreement. So I'm still not sure what they would want in a good neighbor agreement.
Yeah, Councilmember Tyson, in terms of the Development Commission, they asked us to do some extra trees on one side of the property. We agreed to do that. That shows up in our site plan. So, I mean, I think in terms of this particular zoning with a PUD, we've committed to a site plan, a text, building elevation. So I think all those basic elements to define what we're doing and how we're doing it are contained in the ordinance.
I do have one question. As far as the developer, does the particular developer have experience working with, I guess, aging residents? That was a concern, that aging residents will not actually move into these units.
Well, I think when you go look at how they're being designed in terms of the floor plan and the first floor master, I mean, that's the market that they're looking for. It's also in the City of Columbus schools, whatever that may mean to someone with a family or something like that. I mean, the interest that we've had in terms of the members of the country club, I think every one of those that have said, I'm interested, are all empty nesters.
Do you have any idea as far as a unit, how much one will cost to purchase?
Well, the number keeps going higher as the cost of materials. What are we talking, 400 now still? 400 and above per unit.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for Attorney Brown? Thank you. I would like to ask staff really briefly if you could talk about the current zoning under PUD 2 and what they could develop, and then the difference in rezoning to PUD 4.
Sure. The current PUD 2 that was passed in 2006 allows for 3 single-unit dwellings, and this is allowing 14 units total. So I believe the difference, the PUD 2 that's currently on the property is 0.78 units per acre, and this plan has a density of 3.62 units per acre.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments? Well, seeing none, I would first like to move to amend this variance to emergency.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
And based on staff recommendations, as well as the area commission, and I believe that it has been stated that the developer has worked with the city of Whitehall, I would like to move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
2679-2017 to rezone 176 Rumsey Road 43207, being approximately 0.56 acres located at the northeast corner of Rumsey Road and 6th Street from R2 Residential District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is Brian Daniel. The proposed use is an eating and drinking establishment. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Far South Columbus Area Commission's recommendation is approval. I would now like to ask for a staff presentation.
The site is currently developed with a non-conforming bar and patio and a single-unit dwelling with a detached garage zoned R2 residential district. The requested CPD Commercial Plan Development District will permit the conversion of the first floor of the dwelling unit into a restaurant with outdoor dining while maintaining the bar, patio, and parking lot. The patio for the existing bar was approved under a special permit by the BZA Board of Zoning Adjustment in 2015. The site is within the planning area of the Scioto Southland Plan, which recommends mixed-use regional commercial uses for this location. The CPD text commits to use restrictions, setbacks, traffic access, buffering and screening, and a site plan. The proposal also includes variances to reduce the minimum number of parking spaces and to carry over existing non-conforming conditions for landscaping and screening while supplementing the landscaping as shown on the site plan. With the landscaping proposed, the request is consistent with the zoning and development pattern for the area. For these reasons, staff has recommended approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? If you could briefly talk about the request to amend to emergency.
My name is Sean Mental. I'm the attorney for the applicant, 100 South 4th Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. To kind of echo Attorney Brown on the last project, the reason we requested emergency is due to the increasing costs of materials and labor of construction, the weather that we have right now, the opportunity for building during this late season, and the 30 days would provide that opportunity. Of course, at your discretion, and we offer that.
Thank you, Attorney Minow. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I would first like to move to amend this variance to emergency.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
2584-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 333304, permitted uses in ARO Apartment Office District, 33914 Height District, 331227 Parking Setback Line, 331229 Parking Space, 332105A12 Vision Clearance, 333315C Basis of Computing Area, 333318 Building Lines, and 335611 Building Lines of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 873 North High Street, 43201, to permit a mixed-use development with reduced development standards in the ARO Apartment Office District and C4 Commercial District. The applicant is Dan Gore with Pizzuti Companies. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Victorian Village Commission's recommendation is approval. I'd like to ask for a staff presentation.
The site consists of 3 parcels zoned in the ARO Apartment Office and C4 Commercial Districts. The requested council variance proposes a 6-story, approximately 100-unit apartment building with garage parking in the ARO district and a 6-story mixed commercial building with 46,000 plus or minus square feet of general office space and 11,000 plus or minus square feet of retail space in the C4 district. Parking for the commercial building will be provided within the garage of the apartment building. The request includes additional variances to increase building heights and lot coverage and to reduce parking and building setback lines, parking space size, and vision clearance. The site is located within the vicinity of several sites that receive council variances to allow similar multi-story mixed-use projects along the High Street corridor. There is no council-adopted plan for this area, but the proposal will permit a multi-story mixed-use development that is consistent with the development pattern and historic character of the surrounding neighborhood. For these reasons, city staff recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for staff? Thank you. Is the applicant's attorney present? I'd like to make any additional comments, and if you could talk about the request to amend to emergency as well.
Sure. President Klein, Chairperson Page, Mike Shannon on behalf of the applicant. Staff did a good job addressing the council variance before you. With respect to the emergency, I'd echo what Jeff and Sean said in their previous testimony, and would also like to stress that we've been working for 18 months with the Victorian Village Commission, the respective regulatory agencies with the city in order to build consensus on this, and I believe the fact that there's, to my knowledge, no one here in opposition is an indication that we've been dealing in good faith. And for those reasons, we would respectfully request the emergency amendment. And I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Attorney Shannon. And just so we're all clear, your request for emergency is for construction costs and also timing as far as the construction season.
Absolutely. That's correct.
Thank you. Councilmember Mitch Brown.
Chair Page, just a question, Mr. Shannon. Parking. Could you elaborate for me about the concerns and the volume of parking?
Yes. What is unique about this council variance application, as opposed to maybe a half a dozen I've appeared in front of this council for in the short north, is that we are not requesting any parking variance whatsoever. The only parking variance that may come into play is we might reduce the stall size from 9 by 18 to 8.5 by 18. But this site is standalone, totally self-compliant with the short north parking guidelines as adopted.
Do you have an approximate number on the
I believe it's 100.
available?
Okay, we've got 38 plus 7 is 45 plus 128, so about 168, 170 spaces.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harden.
Thank you, Chair Page, and thank you, Mr. Shannon. I originally had questions when this was first brought, not to take away from the project that is in front of us, because looking through, and I think it should be noted and very much appreciated that this is a wholly contained project, that there is not a parking variance in front of us. The concern, though, that I had was that over the last year or so and into the next year, the Short North Corridor, the High Street Corridor is seeing considerable development, as well as layered on top of that, a pretty extensive, engaged, invasive streetscapes project. We've been out to the Short North and heard from small business owners who really are independent small businesses, and there really is an issue with the amount of good stuff happening, but when it's layered on top of each other, it doesn't make for good stuff right now for those small businesses. And so I will just say that this wasn't easy, even though that this project is good and worthy of support, and that's why I want to be supportive. But I think that we as a community, us as a city, working with developers and stakeholders like the Short North Business Alliance, are going to need to come together to find out ways that we can mitigate the impact of this, again, good stuff, this good development that is happening, this density building that is happening, but mitigate that in the meantime for the next year or so when we have high impact work going on around those businesses.
Thank you. I've shared your sentiments with my client, and they've agreed that they would like to sit at the table and help you discuss those issues, and perhaps even take a leadership role in that regard. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Harden. Any additional comments for Councilmember Stenziano?
Thank you, Chairwoman Page. Just a reminder, how did the Area Commission vote on this?
Unanimously in favor.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments for Attorney Shannon, I would first like to move to amend to emergency by voice.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Brown? Yes. Harden? Yes. Page? Yes. Stenziano? Yes. Tyson? Yes. President Klein.
I now move for passage by voice.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Brown? Yes. Harden? Yes. Page? Yes. Stenziano? Yes. Tyson? Yes. President Klein.
President Klein, Chairperson Page, with leave of the chair, I'd like to make the following comment. As many of you know, this is kind of a special evening for me, and I'd like to borrow the line from the famous George M. Cohan. I normally say thank you, regardless of the outcome, but tonight I'd like to say my mother thanks you, my father thanks you, and I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Shannon. And that's all we have in zoning this evening.
Thank you, Chair. Any other business to come before council? Regular meeting number 52. Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson,
We
President
stand
Klein.
adjourned.